edition of the Hoel Roofing and Remodeling podcast today. We're down in Nashville, Tennessee, or I guess technically Franklin, Tennessee, at Dave Ramsey's headquarters. And today, guys, we're just down here, sitting down here with Jeff. He is the head. I guess, Jeff, tell us your title
Sure.
here.
Yeah, so I'm Associate Director of Sales for our sponsorship team for Ramsey Education. That's what I do here.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So the reason you guys may say, what are you guys doing in Nashville? As a lot of people know, we sponsor several high schools, several schools with the Ramsey curriculum. And it's just, I wanted to get down here, talk with you, kind of just the overview and just talking about the impact, because two things. I want our customer base to know that we are a company about giving back.
Right.
We do what we say.
Yeah.
And also I want to encourage other business owners that may be listening to this, because the impact that they can make, because I know I was talking to some of your team yesterday and they were talking about some opportunities that popped up. I know in Wisconsin, a good friend of mine, Brandon Allen,
Right.
He just picked up another school.
Yeah.
So shout out to Brandon for that. Thank you, brother.
Dan was telling me that he's like, hey, Bob's here and he thinks he should do more or whatever. So I love that. I mean, it's so cool when we have a sponsor like you and Emily, who have been amazing sponsors for years now. When you guys don't just want to help your exact community, but then how can we reach out to other communities and influence your colleagues, your cohorts, the people that are doing the same industry as you are, maybe just construction as a whole.
Yep.
And I love that. I kind of love that kind of like competition that you've created. We one of our big sponsors is Air Force, for example, the United States Air Force. And so they're broken into 3 squadrons across the United States, the recruiting. And so we've been working with one squadron, and one of the other squadrons found out, and we had a meeting with them. And they were like, well, how many did that squadron do? And so it's very similar, like where there's this, like a competition of wanting to help. But I think it's cool because, you know, I don't know how many of your listeners know you and Emily's story, but like what we teach here at Ramsey Solutions is that once you've gotten out of debt and once you've done all the things right, the final baby step is live and give like no one else. And our sponsorship program through Ramsey Education is one of the only opportunities inside the building where we give our tribe, people who follow the stuff we do, to give back to the community. And so you and Emily have been, we couldn't thank you enough. We love you guys. You're some of our favorite sponsors. We feature everywhere we can. We do videos and all that.
And I mean, what was cool about, I mean, I'm always outspoken about the Dave Ramsey principles, what they've done for our family, how they've changed our family tree.
Yeah.
Brought the family down, brought the kids down yesterday, seen Dave and Dr. John do a show, just because our kids here is talking about Dave Ramsey all the time. And it's so funny because they have no idea who Dave Ramsey is. Yeah. Like, one of my daughters is like, so Dave's going to meet us there? And I'm like, no, Dave's not really going to meet us there. Yeah. We're going to his office. But, you know, like one day they'll understand. But I'm always outspoken. And me and Brandon, part of a group, a roofing mastermind called Revolt. And I shared, you know, we were, Hunter, the gentleman that runs that, was talking about like, tie something into your business that you believe in and you can give back. And me and Emily were already doing this. We've done more since we joined that group. But I was just very outspoken. I'm like, hey guys, this is something we've done. Something else we've done for a year, I think it was 2 years. Yeah. We donated a water filter that would provide drinking water, I think, up to 10 years for a third world country. Wow. That was kind of cool. We did that on every single job. If we sold a job, we donated one in that customer's name.
Sure.
However, like when I said that, and then it's funny because there was a couple of people that came up to me and they're like, oh yeah, Dave Ramsey's principles changed my life. And that's why Brandon sponsors like he does, because, you know, they impacted his life. And it's just, for us, like it's just a challenge of like, go give. Because like Dave says, the most fun you can ever do with money is give it away. Right. Like, you can only have so big a house or have whatever car, like genuinely, like at the end of the day, like, I mean, just for us, we run into kids and they come up to us and they thank us for sponsoring, like, because it's impacting them.
Have you shared with your audience some of the stories about what, like, because you have some great stories.
Yeah.
I mean, so the gas station one is my favorite.
Yeah. So that probably is too. Had a small office catering. We were catering lunch for our team, and everything but cups was brought. And like, of course, we realized it as we started eating. I was like, guys, just go ahead and eat. And I ran across the street literally to the gas station. And I've got our sexy transit vans.
Sure.
So it's really obvious.
Homeschool vans turned into construction vans. I like it.
So I was just like, it's real obvious who we are. And I jumped out, and there was 18, 19-year-old kid made eye contact. I kind of nodded. I mean, it's my hometown. Sure. I grew up there. I've been there 20-some years. So like, I know everybody, and people know us, and I went to pay, and the kid behind me is like, I'll pay for his, and I'm like, do what?
Pay for cups.
And I was like, no, I can. I'm kind of prideful. I'm like, I can pay for my own cups, like, you know. And he's like, no. And I was like, do I know you?
Yeah.
And he goes, you probably don't, but I was in the financial class, and you know, he rattled off 2 or 3 things that had made an impact that had already changed his life at 19 years old.
Yeah.
And like I got choked up, and I was like, I walked out of that gas station after I finally put my pride to a side and let him pay for the $4 cups.
Yeah.
And I just kind of looked up. I was like, all right, God, you got my attention here, you know. And I shook his hand. I thanked him. I don't know his name to this day, and I said, well, if you can remember who sponsored, if I can ever help you out, just, you know, let me know. So
I love that story. I think because like it kind of points out and I say this all the time when I talk to potential sponsors or current sponsors, I'll say the impact you're having is immeasurable. Like you'll never know the impact you'll have, because we hear stories. I mean, we'll hear a debt-free scream now and then where a young couple will be like, yeah, I learned it in high school and then went to college and did student loans and got into debt. And then when we got married, I remembered these principles, and it was like, what? Why didn't I do this? Like, why didn't I remember this? And so the impact that it has may not happen immediately, but like in your case, like I just love that story, because what it does is it really shows that even though the kid may be sitting in the back corner not paying attention, they may actually really be listening, and it's going to change their life, which is awesome. So
what I love, honestly, is like the teachers. So one thing we try to do, we try to get in the classroom, talk to the kids, just make sure the teachers know that we're a resource for them.
Yeah, let me shout you out actually again. I feel like I'm just shouting you out this whole thing, but really it's cool. Like one of the things Bob and Emily do is before they renew, because it's a renewal thing we do every year. So we give you a full year to put it in the school, is they will go and check in with all the teachers and all the schools that they're sponsoring and just make sure, hey, is it working? Are they using it? You'll go in for a visit. We got some video of you visiting one of your classes, which was awesome. And then they just want to talk to the teacher and see how it's going. And I love that due diligence on your part. I mean, we do that as well on our team. Like we'll go out and we'll get all that information. But you're probably one of the most proactive sponsors when it comes to that. You know, some sponsors, you don't have to do that.
Right,
you can just sponsor school, and then we'll take care of all the getting you all the updates and stuff like that. But the fact that you do that, actually, the impact goes even further, and that's probably why that kid recognized you, because you probably sat in the class and talked to them like you did with that one class that we got on video, which is great. If you haven't seen it, go to our website, Ramsey Education, and there's a great video of Bob and Emily, kind of their story, and you see them visiting the teacher in the classroom, which is really cool. So
well, and I mean, and something that when a new teacher teaches it, they're like, oh my gosh, like I've learned so much. Like, and the crazy one is at our local high school, Rushville, Miss Baker, Miss Sliger, she got married on us there. She was the Rushville teacher. Then Miss Personette was also teaching a class or two. And the crazy thing is, I had Miss Personette 20 years ago.
That's crazy.
Now, I don't think the lady's aged a bit, you know, so I was like, oh my gosh, she's still here. Like, then I started thinking, wow, it's been 20 years almost since I was there. But, like some of the conversations that we had with her, fortunately, Miss Sliger, she grew up in an FPU family, Financial Peace University family. So like that just, she was on fire for it. Like she like pretty much jumped up and down when she got the email saying that, you know, it was sponsored. But it's, like I said, like, and what I love is, you know, this will get me down a rabbit hole a little bit here, but one thing that I think the schools around us are starting to do a better job at is realizing not everybody is meant for college.
Yes.
And I actually we did a podcast with our local principal, and like he got me jacked up on like his energy, A, but B, like he realizes like there's some kids that are meant to go to the workforce half day their senior year.
100%.
And like, you know, my senior year I worked half a day just to get the heck out of the school and to make money, you know. But they're starting to see that, and like, you know, and we're I went to one of the classes, or I went to Greenfield Central's, another school we sponsor, and I went and talked to some of them kids, and you know, and it was, I mean, there was even one kid in there, his dad was an entrepreneur, and like he made a couple comments, and I don't think he really knew how much it impacted me, but it kind of made me want to make sure that I was still focusing on being a dad as an entrepreneur, because like he's like, yeah, my dad's got a pretty successful business, but I don't ever see him. And like to hear a 16, 17-year-old kid that, let's be honest, we don't think our kids care that we're around at that age, and my kids aren't there yet, but still like that was impactful to me. But just to teachers, and that particular teacher, Will is his name, he came from, he just started teaching a few years ago. So he's had real world experience, which I think is fantastic for the kids, because I have noticed Indiana's passed some legislation where now if personal finance class is going to be required to graduate, which is awesome. But they're also focusing more on what track. Are you going to university? Are you going to work? Are you going to trade school? And there's almost 3 separate tracks, which is exciting for me, just because, like, you know, me and Emily go into these classrooms, and I'm always careful how I approach this, because I want to make sure the kids know that college doesn't have to be for everybody. And because I feel like 20 years ago,
we were forced.
College, 100%. Like there was no other option. You know,
if you didn't go to college, you were a loser. Essentially. Like, I had to take a gap year, kind of unintentionally. Like there was a financial issue with my family, and a scholarship I was supposed to get fell through, and so I ended up staying home for a year. And I remembered just the feeling of shame that I had. All my friends left. Like I had one friend who stayed and went to the community college where I went, and they wouldn't even look at me. They weren't a friend, really. They wouldn't talk to me. And I just felt so ashamed going to community college. And it fast forward, just to like talk about your story, like my son, who's 19, he turns 20 in like 3 weeks, which is crazy. I can't believe I have a 20-year-old. But when he was looking at college, first of all, we went through our financial chaos in 2008. Almost lost our home, almost lost our marriage, found Financial Peace University, completely changed our lives, sold everything. You were talking about your buddy that sold everything. I was just like that. Like I would do anything for $1. Not anything, but you know what I mean. Not anything. But we ended up having one car in we lived in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
We owned one car in it's all freeways. That's all the only way to get around. I mean, I guess you could take a bus, but you don't want to take a bus in LA. Sorry. And I did. There's some stories there. But anyway, we had one minivan that we would cart around. My wife would drop me off at work, or I'd drop her off, and then we get the kids to school. And I mean, it was a whole thing. But we worked really hard to get there. So my son and daughter, but my son had watched us kind of take this transition. And so when it came time for college, two points about that is, one, when we came to do our debt-free scream about 2 years after I started working here back in 2017, on the drive here with my wife, because I was already here at work, he said to Clara, my wife, I'm never going to have to do one of these, Mom. And she goes, what? And he's like, well, I'm never going to be in debt. And I mean, he was like 12. And it's like, that's crazy that at that age. So when college came around, I said, okay, you have some options, buddy. He's doing film and video production. So I said, community college, it's free here in Tennessee for the first 2 years. You can go to a state school like, UT, Knox, or MTSU, Middle Tennessee State, or you can look at a private school. And I said, the problem is we had a certain amount of money that we had saved between us and my wife's parents. They had put some money aside for the kids. And so we gave him that number, and he went to the expensive private school, which is like a country club for kids. I mean, he loved it, of course. I mean, it was like, everything's beautiful there, but it's like $45,000, $50,000 a year.
Right.
Then he looked at MTSU, Middle Tennessee State, which is about a 40-minute drive from our home. And he looked at the dorms, and he said they looked like prison cells, which the tour guide said, I'm pretty sure the same people who built the prisons built the dorms, which is probably true. Will, do you know? Will know. I mean, probably the same people, right? Our engineer, Will, by the way. Thank you, Will, by the way. Will Rudder set it all up.
Will, is he saying that you've been in prison or what?
Maybe, yeah. You never know with Will. He's got a secret life. No, but Will's an old Tennessee boy. He knows everything about Tennessee. Anyway, But he chose MTSU and he chose to commute.
Mm-hmm.
And still to this day, he's going to his junior year, and we will not pay $1
Awesome.
until his senior year because of scholarships and everything that he's going to college probably all in when everything is said and done. He'll pay $2,500 for a 4-year education.
Right.
But he knew that he didn't have to do that. I said, you could go to a 1-year film school and learn all the trade and then just go get a job in Nashville.
Right.
Why not? And he was totally fine with that.
Right.
Mike Rowe talks about this a lot.
Yep.
He was at Summit. We do an event, Entree Leadership Summit, and when we had it here in 2020, did you guys come? You were here for that one when we had it here at headquarters, COVID year?
Did not.
So that was the first year Mike was a guest here.
Okay.
And he told this story about how he talks to plumbers and electricians all the time. And they have so much trouble getting people that are experienced to come work for them. So then they end up hiring MBAs. Like these guys that went to college 6-7 years to get their MBA. They're in buckets of student loan debt, and they can't get a job in the industry that they learned. So they go work for a plumber. And he said, the plumbers tell them that it takes them 2 years to get them up to speed. They have to send some of their experienced guys with them, so it's taking that time away. So it cost them so much more money to take an MBA because trade schools have gone the way of the dodo.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mike Rowe, you know this, big like proponent, like he has that whole scholarship fund for trade schools, which is so funny because it's almost like the frog in the boiling water, like slowly during the 90s, because I grew up in the 90s, graduated in 96, but like I remember my freshman year of high school, there was shop class, like wood shop, and there was an automotive class. And by the time I was a senior, those classes were gone.
Right.
But they never really said anything.
Yep.
They just kind of disappeared. And then the kids in shop, wood shop or whatever, or mechanics class, they were kind of like the loser kids, according to society.
Yeah.
But those guys, I know a few of those guys still. They're millionaires.
Yeah, right.
Because they own their own, like you, they own their own business. They went out and they started a plumbing business or whatever the case may be, and they just worked. They don't have a degree. They have a high school diploma and a lot of experience, and now they hire, like, they're a small business owner in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. So I think that whole idea of college is such an important thing. And that's one of the things we love about sponsorship too. So when you're a sponsor, Whole Roofing, you go in and you tell these kids, hey, by the way, I run a small business and I also hire a bunch of guys that do the work for me, and they have full-time jobs. And you can do that too, right? Same thing goes for when we have the Air Force or we have the Army National Guard is another one of our big ones. They go in and they go, hey, there's other options. You can join the Air Force, serve your country, and go to college for free. And so that message is so important. And that's partially what Dave has been teaching. And now Mike Rowe, who partners with us a lot too, teaches the same thing. So I love that. I just love the whole idea of like, let's make trade school cool again.
Well, and back a couple decades ago when I was in high school, I felt like girls, they were either cramming into cosmetology or medical. Yeah. And like my wife Emily, I wish she was here to tell this story. She's swimming back at the hotel with the kids.
No problem.
But
it's a nice bright day in Tennessee. I'd be swimming too if I could.
But she went to community college. She went to Ivy Tech. That's the local community college around us. And she tells the story, and it's so powerful because I watch the girls in the classroom like listen when she says, hey, she felt like a complete loser. Some of her friends tried to peer pressure, like, oh, I can't believe you're not going to IU with us and stuff like that. And she's like, but she's like, she's not in student loan debt. Like her last, so we started dating practically as she was finishing up school, and then her car broke down, and she went to buy a car, and we were buying a little $800 beater car off of her aunt that her cousins had driven, and she had like $400, and I'd helped her do her tax return, and I knew she got more than that back with her tax return, and I was like, what'd you do with your money? And she had owed her mom a few $100s to get that literally like $400 to finish that last semester of school, and this is something else that we always say that she says usually, is like, I wish every girl knew what it felt like to be a mom, because I feel like a lot of girls especially will go get a boatload of debt for an education, and then in 5, 6, 7 years get married, have kids, and then want to be a stay-at-home mom, and they just financially can't afford it. And I don't want to get on a soapbox, but
Yeah.
moms
It's
being
your
moms
podcast.
is what this country needs. And I know that we're in this woke environment, but like when men can be masculine and women can be in their feminine stage, hopefully I said that right because I can't talk. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not that a woman can't work or anything like that. I've got Emily does an awesome job at work. Ellie's amazing at her job at the office. However, it's just like if kids could really understand that, you know, and I always joke, I tell people I've got an associate's degree in environmental engineering, Emily's got an associate's degree in medical assisting, and we're running a roofing company.
Yeah.
So like, you know, the statistic that 80% of people aren't in their field of study after 5 years, I don't know if that's still accurate.
I think it is.
That's crazy to say out loud and you know, and to think out loud. And like I said, like I always also encourage people like in high school, like go get a job. If you don't really know what you want to do, like if you think you want to do marketing, go work for a company. I would hire a marketing intern tomorrow. A lot of companies would. You know, I'm fortunate enough. We've got Adam that does our podcast and does video, and like, I mean, it's pretty cool for us in our small town to have a position like that he can drive 3 blocks literally to work. You know, so there is a lot more opportunity. And I always tell them, like, guys, it's better to get real world experience than a fancy college education. There's nothing wrong with a college education. However, like, I literally had a marketing meeting yesterday morning before we left down here, and I was like, hey guys, the old saying 50% of marketing is wasted. We just got to figure out which 50% it is. Like, I was like, guys, we just got to keep trying new things, and that. So I mean, that's the reason that we do the classroom visits, just to get in there. And you know, also this is a story that I don't even think I've had a time to share with your guys' team. We're in at Greenfield Central, and the teacher spoke up and he said, due to this class, due to some mentoring and coaching from the particular teacher, there was a girl in his class that had chosen the least expensive route to get education. And I could tell that she was in the class because I could tell the way he was speaking. And I think we visited 3 of his classes, maybe 4 of them. And I was like, young lady, is that you? And she's like, yeah, it is. And I applauded her in front of the entire class. I said, I'm proud of you. Like, you literally just changed your family tree. And you're 18 years old. Like, she has no idea. Like you said earlier, like the impact that, the generational impact that, you know, I say this a lot. We talk a lot about legacy in our business, and what I want my legacy to be. Like, there's going to be kids impacted from mine and Emily's legacy that I'll never know their name. And I mean, I'm completely fine with that. Like, that is like the young kids that go through the class. Because something else I always tell the kids when I'm in the classroom, hey guys, if I was you, I wouldn't be really excited to listen to a 35 and 37-year-old, you know, talk about finances when you're 16, 17, 18. Now, the kids are super attentive, and I don't know, it's just I'm amazed of how well they respond. And you know, and there was a kid in one of the classes this year that I could tell he wasn't engaged. So I was like, I asked him, did you get anything out of this class? No. Okay. Like, what are you gonna do? And I can't remember exactly what it was going to be, but it was going to be more like film and that kind of stuff. So I started asking him questions about that. He just perked right up. Super involved in the questions then. And I was just like, and I mean, I'll be honest, the beginning I wanted to reach over there and just freaking, punch him or give him, grab his head and put him in a headlock and say, listen, kid, this could change your life. However, just getting at his level and kind of understanding what he wanted to do.
Well, and I think those are the moments that kids remember. And again, we'll never know. Right? You'll never know. But like for a kid like him to potentially go to like a trade school. Instead of getting a 4-year, like Anthony, my son, excuse me, wanted to get a 4-year degree because he wanted to. And he found the most affordable route. But the family tree thing is true. Like, the amount of debt I was in when I graduated college, because I went to a private Christian university in California. You do the math. Okay? I mean, all of those things combined. So I graduated college in 2001. I didn't pay off that student loan until 2017. So it took 16 years. And that's after selling a house, moving out of California, moving here to work for Dave, that I was able to even get a big chunk. When we sold our home in California, that took a big chunk of it out. And then once we moved here, when you're sitting here breathing the rare air of Ramsey Solutions, like you can't not be intense about getting out of debt. And so we got out of debt in 2 years after that. It was so quick. But again, going back to my son, he's never going to have it. He will always understand. The boy has more money in his, like, you know, we all have like a spending account and then you have your savings. In his spending account, he has more money than my wife and I currently by a lot.
Right.
Because he's a little cheap, to be honest. I have to talk him down off the ledge. I'm like, hey man, I hope he doesn't hear this. I'm like, hey dude, you can, like, so him and his sister will go out, and his sister's 17, he's 19, and he'll pay for his sister. I'm like, just buy her lunch, you know, because she doesn't have a job, she's still in high school, and he'll be like, oh, it was $7, Dad, and I'm like, hey dude, I know your balance, like $7 is gonna break you. I'm like, how's the food in the fridge, and how's that AC working out for you in your bedroom? Because he's living at home for free. We told him if he's going to college, he doesn't need to pay us anything, and he has a job too. And he has a hard job. He works for a t-shirt company.
Okay.
So he sits in this warehouse all day and screen like physical labor. He comes home, he's just covered in paint. But I'm like, that's good for him. Like he's learning what it takes to earn $1, and he's so he's so careful with his money. And he's always telling me like, I don't want to not have money. And I'm like, I like that, buddy, but you can also be not so cheap. But anyway, it has completely changed my family tree as well. So yeah, that's the greatest thing about the curriculum in general. Like what our curriculum teaches is basically what Dave's been teaching for years, but we always call it the preventative medicine. Hopefully we'll get through to somebody before they go and get a student loan. Have you seen the documentary Borrowed Future?
I have not actually. Okay. Emily just seen that on the wall yesterday.
It's so good. I was blown away by it. So we Ramsey Solution released a documentary, I think about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's called Borrowed Future, and it's about the student loan crisis in America. It's a phenomenal documentary. I mean, it's just as good as any documentary you've seen, Netflix or anything like that. And I think it is on YouTube for free. So if you're listening to this and you want to watch it, when it first came out, you know, Dave and the team encouraged all of us as team members to go home and watch it with our families. And so I did. My sister was visiting from California at the time. She now lives here. She moved to Tennessee. I convinced everyone to move here. Like my entire friend group, my parents, my sister, they all moved here. Over 10 years it took me to get everyone out here. But anyway, so my niece, who was same age as my son, my older niece, who's she's like 22 at the time, and then my daughter, who's probably like 15. We all sat down and watched this documentary, and I was sort of like, okay, we'll see. They were so engaged because it's such practical advice, and it's just like what you're saying with the class. Like, even though that kid may not have like thought he was learning anything, he did. He heard it. And the crazy thing about it is like they interview a couple of different people. One is a student who was paid for everything. He started a lawn mowing business where he like bought lawnmowers and fixed them, and he was able to pay his way through college. Then they interview an orthodontist. He's $1 million in student loan debt, and he's an orthodontist. They make good money, but he can barely survive because his student loan payments are so big. And then they interviewed a teacher. This was the most impactful one. He's coaching like 2 different sports, so extra money there. He goes twice a month or maybe once a week to go give platelets or plasma, because I guess, I don't know, I've never done that.
That actually pays decent money.
Yeah, so but he does it like weekly, and he has to drive like 2 hours somewhere off, and his wife's and he's just like, we're never gonna have our American dream, you know. So to see those stories, and they all have happy endings, which is a good. Not they're on their way to a happy ending. They've discovered what we teach here, but the whole idea of the documentary, and we partner it with our curriculum. So when you sponsor a school, for example, the teacher gets what do you call that? I can't think of that. Training in the class, like professional development training. Okay. Sorry. So she gets some of that automatically. They get the curriculum for a full year for anyone in the school. So I think some of your schools have 2 or 3 classes. Some schools just have 1 class, and that's totally normal, but we give it to them full access. But then they also get access to the Borrowed Future and a little study guide as well. And so we hope that people will watch that, because really, again, we're just trying to teach these kids, like, you don't have to go into debt, right? My son is a perfect case study. He's going to leave college completely debt-free, having paid maybe $2,500 all in, because he got all the scholarships he needed to get. He did good in school. He got good grades. And he made a decision on his own that he was going to go to a local college and commute. Probably all 4 years he'll commute, Because honestly, his room is a lot nicer than those prison-like dorm rooms. So anyway, the preventative medicine part is really key, and it's probably the most amazing thing. It's why I love our sponsors so much. Like I've been doing relationship management here at Ramsey for most of my time here. And the group that I've loved working with the most is anybody who sponsors. So I've done a little bit with Entre Leadership, a little bit with Ramsey Trusted, and for a couple years now with Ramsey Education. And what you guys are doing is, it's just the Lord's work.
Right.
There's this old worship song from years ago, and it was called "Thank You for Giving to the Lord." And it's like this cheesy, like late '90s Christian song, and it's about this guy that goes to heaven, and these people just are walking up to him and saying "Thank you," and he's like, the story's like, "I don't know you," and he's like, "Well, a missionary came to your church one Sunday, and you gave some money, and because you gave some money, the village that I live in was able to get some clean water, and we also found Jesus.
Right.
So thank you for giving," right? And so it's the same exact concept. I always think of that silly old Christian song. And I listened to it recently. It is just as cheesy as you would imagine. Like, it's just so cheesy. But it's such a cool story because that's exactly what sponsorship does. Like, sponsors are giving back to something that they may never see, and will never know the true impact. And as Dave says, one of the secrets of Ramsey Solutions is that we're teaching people about money. We're teaching people how to get out of debt, or in this case, with our curriculum, how not to get into debt. But the secret is they may just find Jesus along the way, which is such a cool, like when you think about, every time I think about that, I'm like, oh my gosh, the kingdom impact is amazing. I have to cough.
You're good.
I went on a cruise because I'm debt free. And of course, on the day that we're getting off the boat, this is just Sunday, I get a tickle in my throat. And of course, so I'm back now. I have to go back to work. I'm all rested and tanned, sun-kissed. Will was complimenting me earlier on how beautiful I look. Anyway, and of course, I have a cold. Of course, right? So, I'm sorry.
Well, and that is one thing that a lot of people, you talk about, like the kingdom impact is, you have a lot of people complain that they're taking God out of schools and that kind of stuff, and there's a lot of that. I'm just going to bitch and complain about stuff and not do anything. And like, this is a way that people could be introduced, and it's not crammed down their throat, anything like that. But it's like, the crazy thing is I found Dave Ramsey on the radio. I got to rack my brain here a little bit, probably 15 or 16 years ago. And I grew up, my dad drugged me to church. I was a kid. I wasn't listening, I got sprinkled when I was in 6th grade because there was 2 other people doing, but it was after finding Dave on a radio station in Terre Haute, Indiana, which is on the other side of the state that I live in, actually, that got me. I always knew I always wanted to be a full-time entrepreneur. I'd always done side jobs and stuff like that, but it also brought me back to church and really giving my life to Christ, not really rededicating it, because when I was in 6th grade, I didn't know what I was doing. But so that is a cool, and that's not my motive. If you're watching this, that's genuinely not my motive. My motive is helping people stay out, because the crazy thing is, me and Emily will be married 13 years by the time this podcast goes live, within a couple weeks from today. And when we started it, I made her listen to the stupid 13-week series on FPU. Sorry, babe.
Back in the day.
While we were driving around, hanging out while we were dating. Because I knew, I'd already...
It's very romantic.
Yes. I already knew what I wanted, on that. And, my story is, my dad and biological mom was bankrupt and divorced when I was 2. And she's, pretty much told my dad, with us 3 older kids, that you can either give them up for adoption and we can both be free, or you can raise them yourself.
Jeez. So,
there's a saying out there, your mess can turn into your message. And that's what, and I always heard my dad, I love my dad, hard worker, just taught, he said, work hard and be honest. And I just think that that's 2 qualities that if this country was truly ran on, the problems are gone, guys.
Yeah,
but,
so true.
He always said, I'll never be able to retire. And, one thing that I saw growing up, was when he remarried, they didn't work together with their money, separate accounts, and it just doesn't work. And like I said, I love my dad. He's, people that knew my dad when I was growing up, he was hard. I mean, like,
well, raising 3 kids by himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, and then now that people know him as a grandpa, they're like, that is not the same guy. It's like, oh, no, it's not. I can promise you. I mean, my kids could, I always say Reagan, my middle one, shares a birthday with my dad. I always say she could commit murder and he would bury that body and nobody would know about it ever. But, it was something that I was very intentional. Like I told him, I was like, this is how I want to live. Like, I don't want them problems. So 13 years ago, people would make fun of us or they would try to make jabs at us. Now, literally, at least once a month, we get a text message or a message on Facebook like, can you help?
Yeah.
And
we were talking about that earlier.
Emily literally is starting to get them directly. It used to always come to me like, can you and Emily help? And it's just, it's fun because like we just mentored Dylan and Kayla, Emily's girl that does Emily's hair. Dylan, I coached him in youth football. That's a crazy thing, like the full circle thing, especially being in a small town. Like Dylan played youth football with my little brother Matt. Like, and now he's doing a side project for me back at the office. Like just that, and just and they just finished their debt-free journey. And like it's just like Everett, their little, he's probably a year and a half, like his family, like that boy will never know his parents of stress and debt. Like, and and I was trying to explain that to Reagan. Reagan's our 7-year-old, and we were at the office yesterday and just going through like the time lapse that Dave has on that back wall and trying to explain to her, their kids have always known us to pay cash for stuff and not go to the bank. So like my kids don't even understand what debt is. Like one day I'll have to try to explain to them, but so that's, like I said, like, and I've always said this, like, and I give Dave credit for this, is like, okay, I want to set my kids up, like, my kids will work their butt off. Like, if you see us around a job site, my kids are cleaning up nails, like, they're going to work.
Sure.
However, I want to set them up so, whatever they do in life, they're not starting with $50 or $100 or $150,000 in student loan debt, like, at 22 years old. Like, I want them to have a nice house at 22. Like I told my boy the other day, I mean, he's all boy. He's got to mimic me in a lot of things. And I told him his senior year, I want to help him build a house, because he helped me a lot, which we just completed building the house. I'm like, he helped me a lot out there. I'm like, your senior year, I want you working some, and I want to help you build your own house. So I said, when you graduate, I always tell him he's getting out. My little baby, little Rye, she's 5. I'd say she can live here until she's 30, but you got to get out, bud.
She's the oldest. That makes sense.
And I'm joking. Like, I love my boy, Riley, and I love my girls. But, I mean, like I said, for me, like, that's the whole point of this. Me and Emily led several FPU classes, and if there was one thing that drove me nuts was some of the people be like, well, I wish I knew this when I was younger. Well, I wish you would take the bull by the horns today. So that was after one of them classes, I looked at it and I said, we're going to start sponsoring the kids, and just like pouring into them. And I tell them the same thing. You may not be listening and you may go do dumb and get into debt, but I was like, you're going to hear about Dave Ramsey from somebody at church or at work, and you're going to be like, you know what? I actually already knew his stuff from high school, and it'll just,
there's a seed that's being planted.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I just from Ramsey Solutions and from our education team, like, we are so grateful for you and Emily. I know I said that at the beginning too, but it's really people like you, and for anybody that's listening, like, just give us a call.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure you'll put all those links in the show notes and all that. But like, it's very easy to sponsor. We got a great team here. My team, we got Dan and Corey who talk with newer sponsors, and then we have Brandon and Lena who do renewal. And they're all great team members, and very passionate about the mission, very passionate about reaching out to our schools and helping kids with the preventative medicine. So again, we appreciate you.
Yeah, and like I said, and I mean, the whole point of this is I wanted our customer base, our fans, our tribe to know, like, truly, like, the impact that doing business with us, because there's 100 roofers they could do business with. Like, and I always tell our sales guys to challenge them to do business with somebody that they're aligned with their values. Like, we literally had a customer turn into a team member.
That's cool.
Because she like started watching our podcast and like really started diving in and, you know, started, and that's a testament to what our team is doing, the branding that we're doing, you know. But I just, like I said, like I want to do business with like-minded people, and I want to challenge other business owners to give back. And, you know, like I've always said, just go sponsor one school. And go see the impact that one school makes.
Start with one.
And then it's like, you know, and for me, like, maybe I'm too honest, but like we want to continue to expand in our area. And me and my wife went on a mission trip 9 years ago, a little over 9 years ago. And one thing that really that I remember from that trip was the guy that ran our organization said when they want to go into a community, they first start with getting that community fresh water. So they're trying to reach the people for the gospel.
Right.
Their first thing is fresh water.
Resources,
because everybody needs fresh water. And then they build a school and a church. So what I've tried to do now that we're looking to break into other areas is I want to go build a relationship with the school. Like, how can I help the school? Like, is it Dave Ramsey's financial class? Absolutely. But it's also for me being in trades is reaching out and talking to the construction classes of like, hey guys, there's opportunities in your small town and, you know, or one town over. Like, you know, we cover more of a rural area, so we go to other towns also and sponsor schools. It's just not our local high school. You know, our town, so our community has just got one high school. You know, but like, you know, I go to other high schools. Like, guys, there's opportunities 20 minutes away in our business.
Well,
you know,
we have high schools all over the country.
We
have a list called the Hands Raised list, which essentially is schools that have said, hey, we really need this curriculum. You were mentioning that Indiana's going to adopt like some sort of curriculum or law or whatever the case may be. And the thing is, not every state, they may say, yeah, it's required now to take it, but we're not going to pay for it. And that's, again, where sponsorship comes into play. So the cool thing is you don't just have to sponsor the local high school. We had a woman in Texas, she was in Amarillo, that was sponsoring a school in Long Beach, California. And 400 students went through, and they sent her videos, and she was like, I didn't even know where the school was, but she's like, I love the impact it made. And she's continued to sponsor year over year. She did end up picking up some schools in Texas because she wanted to do something a little more local, but she was just happy to help. And so you don't have to sponsor a school in your town. And you may find out the school in your town is already doing it. So then, yeah, you're right. Go a little bit outside your community. Ask about our Hands Raised list. It's out there. We have schools that are ready to go. So.
Yeah, so like I said, I thank you guys. Like we love to build to the impact. Like you guys were nice enough to send up a video crew, did a really cool video with our team. Made my wife super nervous, you know.
She's always nervous.
She just
because we've interviewed you guys a couple times. And she's always nervous as a cat, and then she's great.
And the funny thing is, so we did our debt-free scream like 11 years ago. And like when we first got married, like she never hardly talked at all. And I remember the church that we were going to at that time, like we did our debt-free scream, and people from the church were like, Emily, we've never heard you talk that much.
Your voice.
You know, let alone over a year, let alone over 2 minutes on the radio with Dave. But
one of the largest radio shows on the planet.
Thankfully, she wasn't thinking or she would have probably not got on. And fortunately, that was pre-video time, so it was just, you know, audio recorded. But no, I mean, it's just the impact that his principles have made on our lives, and you know, and we genuinely just want to help, you know, more kids, and just help the communities, because that's just something that what I love about the class. And if anybody's like listening to this and it's on the fence of sponsoring, like so many kids will tell you that is the best class, the funnest class. They got the most out of it as any class. Like I hear it every time. Like I ask the same question, like, do you guys get any out of this, or, you know, where's this rank at? And they're like, oh, absolutely. Like, you know, and I mean, let's just really be honest. Unless you're an educator listening to this, like you realize like there's classes like pre-calculus, like I had to take that stuff for my college education. Algebra, math, I need, okay? pre-calculus I don't really need. I'm not using it right now. There's certain people that are going to use it, but and kudos, like I said, to especially Indiana. I know they're doing a lot of changing the education stuff to set these kids up for success. And honestly, that's what I want. I just want to help set the kids up for success. I want that to be that's part of mine and Emily's legacy. So if you're watching this and you're interested in sponsoring this, please reach out to me. I'll connect you guys. Jeff's team will freaking take amazing good care of you guys. We look forward to continuing this partnership. And thank you for your time.
Absolutely. And before we go, I do want to thank again our engineer, Will Rudder. Thanks, Will, for your time today. He's amazing. He's the best in this building, if I may say so myself. So thanks, Will.
Thank you, Will. I appreciate it. Cool. Thank you. Appreciate your time, Jeff. Thank you.
Absolutely, Bob. Great time.